Oh, there we go. Is there sound now? I've been talking for what? How long? 4 minutes. Anyway, thank you so much. So basically what I was just saying right now is that someone had said that I should share my journey and how my journey started. And with the Lord, like my relationship with the Lord. Can you hear me now? Because it was muted. I'm not too sure exactly how buttons get pushed or whatever else, but it was muted. Anyway, so basically, I was just sharing that like my journey with the Lord started very young. The Lord foreknew us. So if I was chosen for a certain thing, the Lord knew when I was young that I was going to go through some stuff, that I was going to go through some heartache, that probably a lot of people my age would not be able to relate to. And that's truly what happened with me. So, in relations to my physical well-being and the ability to tolerate things that other people can't tolerate. So, like people make assumptions about me because of the things that I will accept or tolerate. And it's not because I don't love myself. And maybe, yeah, it's not because I don't love myself. It's because my norm is different than a lot of people's norms. Like I experienced things that were at the hands of parents who truly probably didn't know what love was, or didn't love me. So I was exposed to some things that that I believe I should not have experienced, or I was too young to experience, or for example, um when my dad brought home the bunny, he brought home a bunny from, there's a place called Kingsington Market in Toronto where you could used to be able to buy like live animals, like rabbits and all the different things you could bring home, and you could slaughter them yourself, and you could divide them amongst your family, and everyone takes food home, or butcher it and take it home. But my dad one day brought home a bunny, and he had me help him slaughter it. And it was traumatic for me because I thought it was going to be my pet. I really didn't think that that was his intention, and a lot of things happened with me. My parents did a lot of things, orchestrated a lot of things without telling us in advance what the purpose of it was. For example, I my parents had us at home playing and all kinds of stuff, watching cartoons and doing all kinds of stuff. And then one day my mom got me dressed and sent me with a neighbor, and he took me to this building with a teacher. And I knew it was school because I saw school on TV, but then there was no preparation for anything. It was just, you walk into situations, and while everyone already knew why they were there, I oftentimes didn't know what the heck I was doing there. So I had a lot of experiences where I walked into situations and had to discern, like my discernment started to grow at a very young age. In relations to things that I encountered, like at that age, so like I'm gonna say between the ages of like 4 and 10, no, 4 and 8, I used to walk in my sleep. My sleep was so heavy and so vivid. And now that I know what witchcraft is, I don't know if I astral projected to the basement, but we had a split level home where there was five levels of stairs to go down. So it was the top floor down to the next floor, then down to the next floor to the basement. And at this time, I can't remember what year this was because I was too young to even think about it, but it must have been in the 70s. Yeah, must have been in the 70s because I went to high school in the 80s. Yeah. Um, King Kong and Godzilla were the thing that people used to like to watch on television. And as much as I wanted to be brave and watch it, it was creepy for me. But my parents would let us watch what we wanted to watch. There was no real kind of guidance as to what we should watch and not watch. And then they would send us to bed. And I remember having walked to the basement a few times. I remember my mom saying that she thought I was going to open the door and walk out of the house and just walk God knows where. So anyway, one day I went to bed after watching something to do with Godzilla and King Kong, and I remember banging on King Kong's chest, banging on King Kong's chest. And in my thought, I'm thinking it was so vivid, like I felt like it was really doing it. I don't know how I could be so small and try, and I knew he was big, but somehow I could reach his chest. And all of a sudden, I heard someone say, Debbie. Like that was what they called me, Debbie, not Deborah, but Debbie was my name at the time and still is for some people. And I turned around and I was so like deep in sleep. I was just almost like I couldn't, I was, first of all, I didn't even believe I was in the basement because it was such a long journey down there. How the heck did I get down there? I don't remember holding on to a handle of anything or anything like that. And I remember my parents saying, "What are you doing?" And I remember saying to them, like, "I don't know." I don't know. But those kind of ideas, like the idea of conquering or dealing with like a giant or something that was dangerous, I felt like I was defending something. And that kind of thinking about defending people or defending a surroundings or your home was something that was instilled in me very young. When I was in school, I remember kids always used to come to me and tell me their problems, and I just listened to them. And I didn't know why that was the case. Anyway, in relations to that, I come to understand later on in life that I was very smart, and I didn't think I was when I was a child because, and not only am I smart, supposedly I'm like genius smart. I didn't know that when I was a child because I had struggled in school. My parents had fought a lot. My dad was very abusive to not just me and my mom, but whoever came in the house. Good morning. And so whenever so basically my parents, their focus was money, so they used to work a lot. And to save money, when I got to the age where I was old enough to be home with my siblings, they leave us home alone. And I was still a kid. I think I was about 12 when that started happening. um or maybe even, yeah, maybe 11 or 12. That being said, I didn't set firm boundaries. We used to watch a lot of cartoons. We ate like we wanted. We made a mess. We played, and then we cleaned up, and then we got ready for bed. My parents came home from work about 11:30. About that. It was the afternoon shift. Anyway, so I was given a sense of responsibility at a very, very young age. And with that responsibility came a lot of consequences. My dad used to really lace into us. Like he used to beat us. He was a military style beating. Now the reason why this is significant is because a lot of the warfare that I've experienced have been physical. As much as it's like like you'll say people will curse. What does that really mean? When someone says a witch curses you or someone hexes you or whatever, how does that manifest in the physical? Now for me, that half the time has manifested in a physical attack, like someone trying to take my life or someone trying to make me sick or someone trying to, or a group trying to do this to me. So all this stuff I endured as a child, like very young, but like I mean I remember back as far as 2. All this stuff was meant to make me strong and resilient. And I couldn't understand at the time why. The time why. Now, in relations to being home with like my siblings, we went to bed late. And so in the morning, it was a struggle to get up. And then I kind of lazy daisical got ready and went to school. I was late almost every single day, which means if I'm running to school and I'm getting to school late, I'm not going to class. I'm going to the office to get a slip. So this whole thing, I had a lot of gaps in my learning because I had to go through the process of going to get a late slip, or I was in class exhausted, or I was thinking about like going home to a situation that I left that my parents were in an argument or something. So as smart as I find out that I am, I didn't know it as a child. My report cards, if you could pull out a report card from me right now, there's a lot of times where the teacher would say I was daydreaming. And it wasn't because I was in deep thought. I was tired, but not only that, I had gaps in my learning, which means that when they were speaking about something, I missed a whole bunch of stuff, so I couldn't relate to what they were saying. And I was thinking about going home to what I was going home to, like the situation at home. So all the things that happened to me as a child, I believe now was a preparation to, well, first of all, was protection. So if anyone knew how much intelligence I might have had, and this is not braggadocious, I'm able to figure things out, and I don't know how. Probably just all God. But if people knew that about me when I was a child, I can imagine how much might have been used or abused for whatever purposes. Anyway, and in relations to the things I went to in relations to abuse, either through experiencing things that were probably I was too young to be experiencing, or abuse of watching my parents go through what they went through, was all made me thick skinned. Like I endured some things as a grown person that a lot of at the hands of people that I loved, through manipulation, like being coerced into situations that I really never should have experienced. So that's the beginnings of my spiritual walk. Now, in relations to how it's spiritual, I always knew God. Sometimes I ask God, like my mom used to pray with us every night. I knew the Our Father prayer or scripture very young. She used to say it every night with us. She'd bend down with us, and at our bedside, we'd get on our knees and we'd say our prayer. We knew that prayer inside out very young. Even though I remember saying it and maybe not knowing the full words. I was young. I remember like not saying it. I remember when I realized the words I was saying wasn't quite the words. So I remember when I first started saying I wasn't saying it properly. But the point is that we were taught to kneel and pray before bed very young. And so I remember like on my own, I remember thinking like, why is this happening to me? Why did daddy do this? Why did mommy and daddy do that? Or why did, having discussions with God, knowing that like he was a part of my family, like he was like, I was always encouraged to know him young, that he existed at a young age. I don't know if that's common for everybody, but for me, he was like a constant presence in my life. So that's how it started. It started when I was young. I had very unusual experiences. I will tell you, I'll expand on this a little bit more, but as I came into this awakening as to who I am and stuff, I will walk into situations, or I'll have a situation happen with me, and the weather, like things will happen, like the house fire, like the time when I prayed to the Lord about protecting my home, and the fire and the lightning hit the house and it caught fire. Or I'll be in a situation where I'm going to go somewhere, and all of a sudden the wind will just pick up and things will just start blowing like everywhere. And then when the situation's done, the wind stops. It's just almost like what's it called? Frozen. Almost like frozen. Like it's just the things that would happen to me with with the weather, when beyond the born again experience, like when I knew the Lord was real and that he was guiding me, and that I was going through a process. I used to notice the weather was odd. Like if I got upset, um that first one time with the lightning hitting the house and the fires. But since then, I would every time I got upset, like in a major way, or had issue with someone, fire trucks would just show up. And just be like two or three of them would just be sitting around where I'm at. So obviously someone knows something. Anyway, so that's how it started. I will share some more about like as I got older, and like because when you're in it by yourself and there's no real church or someone to tell you this is what you're going through, you just go through life feeling like you pretend like it's not happening and you want to just try and fit in. And that's what happened with me. I encountered people who believed that I was um mature enough to handle certain things, and they my mom used to say to me, give you one more thing example. Tell me how smart this might be. Does anyone know who Charlie Brown is? Charlie Brown, the cartoon. There's a time when I was sick. I was a lot of times, oftentimes sick, and I believe this might have been my mom on purpose. I don't know. I was sick a lot, like 2 weeks, like having a fever or whatever else. I was sick a lot, and one time I was sick, I missed the opportunity to participate in something to win a silver dollar. Now, we didn't know that what we were going to win. We knew we were going to win some kind of prize, but we didn't know what it was going to be. I was in grade, oh, I think I was in grade 1, and my sister was in kindergarten, or I was in grade 2. Anyway, I was young. We were only a couple years apart, not that far apart. And so because I didn't want to not be a part of it, and I wanted her to win. So I made her poster for her. It was supposed to be some kind of ad for something the school was doing. And I made Charlie Brown. I took a little cup. I remember I'm in grade 2 or 1. I'm young, but I remember this looking like amazing. And I sent her to school with it, and she won a silver dollar for it, and she kept it. But of course, it was she I wasn't there, so like it was hers to keep. But I remember thinking to myself, now my mom must have thought, whoa. Because I see my daughters do things right now, but I tell them, like, this is amazing, you're wonderful, you're amazing. But I find out when I was younger, my mother must have saw this stuff and must have thought, you know, I don't know what she thought. Because now that I'm older and I realize that she was never for me, there must have been a sense of jealousy, because I remember her telling me, you're just not going to amount to anything. Why don't you go read a book? And I thought to myself, if I had a child at that age that could draw the way I could draw. And the reason why I know I was good at drawing is because when I got a little bit older, I was invited to a conference for youth leaders. I was in grade 6, I do believe. A handful of us were called peer facilitators. We used to be, it was a Catholic school, so we were being prepared to counsel our peers if anything should go wrong, to talk to them, etc., etc. So we went to this conference, and then we were no Malto Verno, or yeah, I think it was Malto Verno, one of these two places up north. I was in grade 6, was I? Yeah. Um, and the one of the activities we were asked to draw a bird. Like, we used to go walking in the in the wilderness. Like, I remember it's up north, so there's a lot of trees and such. And I was asked to draw a bird. And after I was done, the people who ran the program took my picture and framed it and put it on the wall. I'm assuming that the picture is still there, which is amazing, because that was what, I don't know how long. I would love to find out where it is and go there and see if it's still there. But I was shocked. I was young, and it had to be younger than grade 6. I went away twice. It was when I was very young though, so I knew my drawings were like pretty realistic. Besides that, my daughters draw well as well, so I know the gift was passed on to them. So anyway, there's a lot of things that happened to me that were surreal. Like times I could not talk to people about what I experienced, because it was either graphic, like it was too it would probably put my parents in a position where they'd have to they'd have to answer to somebody. And I knew that. I already knew that it would, even though there was abuse in my home, that it was, being at home was better than being in an institution, if you, for lack of a better word. Now, people might say that's not true, but I've worked in an institution with kids who are abused, and I know for sure it's nowhere like being on a home. We tried our best. Personally, as a staff, I remember working with kids in a group home and other settings, children's aid, and thinking to myself, I would love to take these kids home with me. I would love to mother them and baby them and make sure that they're okay. That's one thing I can say for my parents, is that they made sure that we had the necessities, like we had a place to sleep, clean clothes, food to eat. So that was never an issue. But I remember always thinking that I'd love to take these kids home with me, and or be a person in their life to have them positive experiences. Now, that problem with that is that that's something, I don't know, that must have been based on my trauma growing up, because I end up being that way with grown people. Like the men that I met in my life, I end up like babying that same kind of way. So I met, particularly, I allowed men who were broken to become partners. Like, they weren't people that I would have naturally sought out. Now that I have more, I'm more grounded and much more emotionally healthy. Anyway, I'm all over the place. That's how it started. So I wanted to touch on that it's like my journey with the Lord started very young, but I'm trying to be real with this, because a lot of us have had horrific experiences and have had to go through these experiences to come to know the Lord. So when you go through something that is horrific for you, that's traumatic, that you wonder why it's happening, sometimes it's God's way of opening our eyes to his existence. And if we didn't need a savior or protector, then we wouldn't, we probably would never choose to have a relationship with God, right? If everything just came so easy, then we wouldn't choose to seek out a savior, or um, and if that's the case, then a lot of people, when those situations happen where they go through something traumatic, they end up taking their lives, which is a demon. We don't want our lives are not our own. We did not create ourselves. And that's where the church drops the ball for sure. Anyway, I thank you guys for your support. I'm going to continue sharing more about my relationship with God and how it came to be. More details about more like when I got to know about false religions and about spiritual warfare and how the devil's a devil no matter whether you're in a false religion or you're practicing witchcraft. They do the same. I can see it. The people do the same things. So I'll be talking more along the lines of that, astral projection, mind reading, all that kind of stuff. Whenever the church says that the devil can't hear what you're thinking, that's a lie. That's a lie. Hi. Good morning. Anyway, and if you have any questions for me, I'm gonna leave the platform open. I have about 5 minutes, 6 minutes until I'm gonna shut off with making them about half an hour long now because I find that they're long and I have to go back to them. If like I've said this before, I tried to put the links in that I always offer to put in when I can, but if I don't watch the video, I forget. And then sometimes if it's long, I'm having to watch an hour worth of video before I remember what it is I said I was going to do. But if you have any questions for me, once I'm gone, you can also message me on Instagram. You can send me an email. I'm trying to go through everything. I realized on what's it called on TikTok there was messages waiting. I didn't even know they were there. Quick update as well in relations to YouTube. Blessings to you, my dear. Relations to the health and fitness. Um, that's done. But I looked at I had a chance to look at the previous I think 4 years of this happening, and like I said, there's no reflection of anyone of color on those covers. And it's not the cover that I wanted. It was really the money that I was hoping for. So anyway, it was quite the inspiration, and I'm glad that I did it. Because it was kind of cool at first, but then it became kind of like, it almost seemed kind of like idolatry. Like I don't want people worshiping me or watching me in that kind of way. I would really like people to get something from my journey and why I associate my physical health and well-being with my spiritual journey. That's really what I wanted to do, but it became more about money, like raising money, and about uh nothing that I really was like stood for. I mean, I used my relationship with God, and other people do the same. I'm not the only one who talked about God and their journey with that thing, with this competition. But it was so much more about what people like, what they look like, and who can buy. You can buy votes. So if it's not about generally who supports you, it's more about how much money you can spend to buy a vote. Then what's the point? Anyway, I don't got that kind of money. And I don't expect you guys to spend that kind of money either. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I thank you. And for the person who gave me that idea, I appreciate you, especially because this is going to be something, hopefully, that I share that will help somebody. There is a person that I've known for years that is going through, there's a few people that are going through miraculous experiences with God that I might try and partner up with and do a live where they are like on with me to share their journey, because there's some people who have years of, like, I guess God saying I love you and you need to change your life, and the Lord uses their physical health to be the catapult to drive them to seek him. And I hear it in the way they talk. The talk is different. It encompasses more about God than it used to. And I think more it's not necessarily to do so much about our age, because when people get older, they start to appreciate God more, but it's more about the journey, like the struggles they've had to go through that God brought them to. So I'm going to try my best to see if I can have this happen. This person's, I think her testimony would be amazing, but I'll see if she's up for it, because she doesn't have a channel. I'm sure she has YouTube, but I'm sure she doesn't have a channel, but I would love to have her on so she could share her journey with you. Anyway, I thank you guys for everything that you've done and the support you've given me. Remember, you are made marvelously. You are a special generation of people created for this time. You're not a mistake. God knew, for he foreknew you. So you are significant for this time. You're a special, strong, resilient generation, intelligent. All right, guys, until next time, be blessed.